Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
Namaste. Welcome to this 10 p.m. show, the Wednesday 10 p.m. show. And when it is Wednesday and it is 10 p.m., and who else you have except Shri Vibhuti Jha.
Namaste.
Welcome, sir. How are you doing?
Glad to be here, back again.
And before you reached the United States, had Fukuyama predicted the end of history? Or did he do that after you reached?
At that time, frankly speaking, I did not know him.
Okay. But it was really, I should say, a very big deal. Somebody predicting the end of history so prematurely just because the Soviet Union collapsed.
That's right.
And I think for perspicacious, sorry for using this term because I used it for somebody really, really significant and somebody really, really illustrious. Okay.
And really, really British.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So we needed to muster up all our old blighty accent to be able to do that. Anyway, we don't need to do that today. So Francis Fukuyama, he said that it was the end of history, and it probably failed to take into account the march of the left that was actually creeping up below the radar. And he just couldn't figure out what was happening below the radar. He didn't account for the march of left in the American academia, the campuses, the media, and I should say even among the what is called the white females. He just didn't account for it. And today we have come to a situation where I think the Senate is lost to the Republicans. I think that's what I can gather from what all the results I'm getting. And the cultural Marxism, the critical theory, the postmodernism have completely taken hold of America. And every kind of little conflict is being played up. And the American society, as many people know it, the American capitalist culture, the American culture of the land of dreams, that all seems to be getting taken apart by the march of the United States of Socialist America.
Right. But just to make a mention here, Senate is not lost yet because Mr. Perdue is still within the margin of error of 0.5%, which is there in Georgia. And so if Ossoff doesn't win by a greater margin than 0.5%, there will be another election. There will be another runoff.
Oh, God.
Yes, there will be another runoff.
The American elections are a joke.
Yeah. So, while the system is running good, everything is hunky-dory. The moment you have a flat tire, then you know what else was wrong with the car. It's something like that. So that's what has happened to America, I think. But I'll put it this way to you, that still Senate is up because of that reason. And Georgia was a very interesting example. It was traditionally a red state. It turned blue also because of a factor that I blame Republicans for that, not taking cognizance of the fact that when your policies change, it attracts people. So Georgia, all the red states who are economically better off than the blue states, witnessed about 6 to 7 years ago, I think, Georgia, Atlanta, this entire state became home for second Hollywood. And consequently, lots of people migrated to Georgia, a red state, from California, from other blue states, because opportunities came through filmmaking. And what Georgia government had done was, is to give a 30% tax credit for every dollar spent in Georgia.
Oh my God.
So as a result of which, you see a transformation of a erstwhile red state into blue. And that's what is happening in a couple of other states also, because of the mismanagement in California and New York. People are leaving these two large states to red states, which have tax break, which are run well. And the fear in Texas and Wisconsin and other states is that is the bluization of red states is happening through migration of big businesses from California and New York and other places. So Goldman Sachs, I think I mentioned in this program earlier on, some time ago, that Goldman Sachs was moving its entire asset and trade divisions to either Florida or Texas. So think about it from that point of view. The blue people reach in red, the red also becomes blue at a critical point in time.
So why doesn't the red go to the blue?
Why would red go to the blue? It's already in a mess. Why? So, for example, California, you pay very high state taxes of 14 to 15%, whereas Texas, you have no state taxes. Florida, you have no state taxes. So as a result of which, you have a net saving of 14% directly. And besides, they are run more efficiently, pro-business, friendly way. And that's what is happening in Georgia, that you have seen the population mix has changed. And that's what the fear has been talked about in 2016 and other time, that America may not be a white country anymore because of the migrations and immigrations that the policy changes. So, so that's the kind of thing which is happening in America. I think if it is a 50-50 vote, and our dear Kamala Harris, if she assumes power as a vice president, she will be the deciding vote. And that could bring about a shift. But remember one thing very interesting also about, this is not the first time that the Washington, D.C. is a one-party state or a city. It has happened in the past. So this is not the first time that presidency, House, and Senate, they are all with one party. The longest tenure was between 2001 to 2007 during Bush era, following which the Republicans, instead of living up to their philosophy of lesser government, transparency, and everything that was good about Republican Party, the power corrupts. You know what the word is all about. Absolutely. And they lost track of their entire thing, brought back Obama. Obama had 2-year honeymoon with the same scenario of presidency, House, and Senate. He could not accomplish much. At the same time, Trump had for a while, for a few months, Paul Ryan run Congress and the Senate by Mitch McConnell, and Trump, there was Paul Ryan who did not give him the wall budget, the budget to build the wall. And, and many famous Republicans did not contest the elections in 2016, as a result of which Republicans lost the House majority. So these kind of things happen. I am not pessimistic. I am saying that United States is a remarkably self-correcting democracy. And, self-correcting democracy, I have a hope in it. The reason why you earlier alluded to the rise of socialism here, my theory is that just after the collapse of the great USSR, it was a business and economics that brought about socialism in this country. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. My thought is that after USSR collapsed, you had many new countries created. None of the world economies ever missed, I say MISSED, missed USSR as a matter of everyday life. All that they knew that Russia was a Cold War partner. I would call it a partner because they were living the life of a partnership in Cold War and space war. And all that we knew Russia was their Sputnik and Lada car, which nobody cared two hoots about it. China figured that out very quickly. And their realpolitik got into play. And they realized that now the West is going to come to me. As a result of which, they made their own change. We all know about that, how they opened up their economy to exploit and work on the profit motive of the corporates, higher margins, my cheap labor, my extensive resources, come and manufacture here. And that's where it led to the Chinese now live in every American household, whether through an Apple product or a garden chair or a t-shirt or many varieties of fake Armani suits. So, the Chinese went into the American household, everything made in China. So as a result of which, China became powerful and rich. They control their, you and I and the whole world knows what system they operate under. And they are now touting about their brand of capitalism, right?
Capitalism combined with authoritarianism.
Exactly. So now what is happening is that I feel that Chinese have entered, they have established equations with, the world knows Mr. Biden, Hunter, and the entire US economy. Even John Ossoff, the Democrat senator who is fighting against Purdue, he has been linked with many Chinese associations. So Chinese, that Eric Swalwell, who was the Democrat person, was having hobnobbing with a Chinese girl, Fang Fang, for 5 years. So Chinese had been playing the long game really well. They used every resources at their command to take advantage of your opponent's big strengths. And that's where it is important for us. And, as I'm reading your book, Unbreaking India, you have stated an a real truth that wise people learn from other people's mistakes, fools by their own. So just as India has not, recognized the historical imperatives, if you do not recognize the historical imperative, you end up suffering from that historical imperative. If you don't learn from history, you allow history to repeat itself. And that's what is happening. I think, in my opinion, I would put it this way, that any socialist kind of a change that will happen in America, there will be. I'm 100% sure. Because Democratic Party is completely wedded to the socialist ideology. They have made promises to their constituency. I have mentioned before that the two main plank of their political system lifestyle is unfettered immigration and the promise to give things that they don't have. So they will have to do things which will lead to socialist implications. But the important part here is how Biden will put gatekeepers, because Biden is not a socialist. He has bought into that ideology because of electoral considerations. But Biden is an old-timer. He is not as a socialist there. As a matter of fact, he has also stated that he might bring Republicans in the cabinet or in his government.
Oh, really?
John Kasich, yes, he has talked about that. John Kasich and Jeff Flake, who was an ardent Trump hater, they may come in this one. And Biden has made a statement, actually, or it is alluded to his team, that anybody who endorsed Sanders, keep off.
Oh, really?
Yes. So the point which I'm trying to make is
great socialist dream.
their great socialist dream. And while Sanders is angling for a labor secretary or finance and something like that, where they can control the levers of the economy, I think Biden will also be hamstrung by the margin of victory that is there. Congress has only 7. Senate will be, if Ossoff wins and it is 50-50, then it is dependent on the vice presidential decided vote. But there are many people on both sides of the aisle who will hold on to the rush for socialist structure. But important thing also to remember, there is the next midterm election coming in 2022. So if Democratic Party swings to the left, trust me, American people will again go for a change. That's what I call it, a self-correcting democracy. It's not that one is saddled with it. However, the priorities will be very important. Whether they will bring in government plans, and we can talk about it as we go along.
Okay. That sounds interesting. That definitely does sound interesting. But it does seem, in the short run at least, that the American economy will go hard to the left. And when they do so, we will have to wait and see what the reaction of the public is, what the reaction of the institutions is, and most importantly, what the reaction of the deep state is. How's the deep state coping up?
Yes, so that is, you are absolutely right. In the short run, I'll put it this way to you: Biden will take certain popular actions, and this particular thing is very important to remember. That, let's take an example of education. Biden and Sanders and everybody, Democratic Party, has been saying that the trillions of dollars of student debt, we will eliminate it. To what extent they will eliminate it, I do not know. But they started off by saying that $50,000 up to $50,000 debt will be removed. Now, this is very important because that's something that I have dealt with. Like when my son went to the college here, the tuition boarding bill was $36,000. Now it is $63,000 or $65,000. Right? That is only tuition and boarding. Forget about his travels, other expenses that were maintenance expenses. So you are literally running a 4-year parallel economy in which you are down by $200,000 to $250,000 straight away. So if you are able to do without if you're using your savings and earnings, obviously you are not in a debt, but it definitely eats away in your capacity to save, right? So that's what it is important here to remember, that what Biden will do very well if he's able to control the cost of education rather than moving away from, just giving a relief. So it has to, both the actions have to run concurrently, because that's where the whole problem lies in terms of choosing importance. So, for example, Obama inherited a collapsed market. So there was a financial, support required to be provided. So just as for him, what you call Affordable Care Act was the main torch that he ran with, perhaps Biden will focus on climate change. I do not know that. What will he choose as his topmost priority will determine the course of the budget. But you cannot run an indeterminate deficit economy, because that will also, affect your ability to take a decision as to what to do and what not to do. There are many, many imponderable issues. For example, both Trump and Democrats talked about infrastructure overhaul, right? Infrastructure overhaul will be a remarkably strong socialist measure, because trillions of dollars will be required to upgrade the American infrastructure, which is much better than reasonably anywhere else. So that's important. Then there is a thing called, if they bring about single-payer medical system, for example, that will be a socialist measure. So providing safety net for people, that will be a socialist measure. So these are very important issues. The question is, does budget maneuverability allow the flexibility to do how much? That's important here. And those determinations will have to be made. Biden is a smart guy. He is not a fool. He has drifted into the left wing only to win election. And soon as he won the election, he began to make the statements that I am my own boss. I don't listen to the left. So you are looking at a scenario that US will not go left, because everybody in America knows one thing for sure. I know it, so I assume millions know it, that this country is successful not because of socialist policies. And this country is successful because of capitalist policies. And therefore, the rules and regulations that have come, they have to encourage entrepreneurship and innovation. If anything they do that affects entrepreneurship and innovation, both are vehicles of economic growth, then you are looking at a scenario of a challenge. But I do not think that will be happening in the short run, because US has a significant mile advantage on these two elements of innovation and entrepreneurship. So I am hopeful about that. And as it is, the economic czars and most of the economic big wigs have already been saying that let's get on with it. But as we are doing this show, Trump supporters are assembling in Washington, D.C. in huge numbers, and he is not giving up the fight. So you are looking at an American thing from something that we are not familiar with. Americans are familiar with this. Fighting to fight and win is the American DNA. You don't give up, because even if you see American sports, they hit hard. Whether it's the baseball or basketball, foul is a part of your nature. You hit harder, you hit, the bigger the opponent falls and the bigger the clapping in the stadium. So the fighting is part of their DNA, sporting culture and everything else. So I think Trump is not going to give up easily. How much does the law support him in this matter? I do not know. It is a matter of, it's a toss-up, because Pence has said that I don't have the authority. Trump is telling him, you have the authority. And about 100 Republicans, about 12 or 13 senators and remaining congressmen are going to contest the election process in the, those disputed states, as they call it, or the marginal states where where the results were suspect. And why it is these only 4 or 5, one doesn't know. That will be a subject matter of how the deep state responds to that.
So it doesn't end till it ends.
No, it doesn't end till it ends. Yes, you're right.
So that's
and I will tell you that many
situation.
Indians have gone there for the Trump support. Lots of Indians have gone from there. 14 buses from New Jersey have gone to DC. So, I do not know what Mr. Trump is addressing his supporters today, but near the White House. But that's quite some game going on right now.
Okay, so while we are at it, I also request my viewers to keep firing their questions via Super Chat and WhatsApp both. We have both the options, so you can keep doing it while we are talking. And let's come to the larger issue, because of course, when we do say United States of Socialist America, there is a touch of improbability to it. But what is increasingly clear is that the social fabric of the United States of America, the academia, and the media, they are in the grip of completely pedantic, completely unsustainable, both socially as well as economically. The theories that were spun, not in the Soviet Union, but I think mostly in Europe and a bit in America as well, of those deep theories which we discussed in one of our shows earlier. The theories of the Frankfurt School, of Gramsci, the cultural Marxism, of Derrida, the postmodernism, the rules of radicals, of Saul Alinsky. The entire college system, the entire university system has been run into ground on the non-technology side by these theories. And woke culture has now
Bless you.
Sorry.
No.
Yeah, that was sudden. And woke culture has come to define not just the youth, but youth plus as well. And that doesn't seem to be going away. That only seems to be gaining ground. And if that goes on happening, then I don't know how much longer it would be before communism actually takes hold of the complete American social and economic fabric. Unless, of course, somebody is wise enough to make this entire education system redundant, because this entire humanities system, according to me, the way it is going in the West, and particularly in the United States, is actually leading nowhere. And this is what is causing these high 64,000, 65,000 bills. I mean, why do you have to go and do conflict studies in a campus and pay 60,000 odd dollars per year? It doesn't make sense.
Right.
So where is that headed?
Well, it is, you are absolutely right, because I have dealt with the situation and I'm aware of that element that you will be surprised to know that the woke culture and the brainwashing of the leftist ideology in colleges is so rampant that Indian Hindu kids talk about that Hindus carry the blood of Muslims on their hands. Can you imagine that? This is the kind of brainwashing that has happened. You are absolutely right. It's a matter of great concern. I'm not going to defend that because I'm horrified. I did a show 2 weeks ago with a young Indian 24-year-old musician and a young lady who is a teacher and who works as an entrepreneur. And they were aghast to know that United States schools are talking about our Indian CAA and 370 as a human right violation, and children are having to write essay. Think about it. This is the extent of, I would say, shamefacedness in education that is happening, in the brainwashing it is happening. And, that is a matter of concern. I will not hide that. However, what is important here is to remember that the job market has changed forever. And these people who spend $65,000 and study liberal arts, unless and until the employment opportunity comes about, the jobs are all driven by technology now. And to land a job, you have to have technical education now. As a result of which, if you are not technically qualified, then you are going to be working in a departmental store or a Burger King or a McDonald's, but you will not land a job which will allow you to earn well. To that end, the American dream is hurting because you are now talking about $15 an hour. So if you are spending, parents are going to spend $65,000 for a job that fetches you $15 an hour. It's not tenable. As a result of which, those people are going to drift to certificate courses and MOOC courses and EDX courses to acquire skills that will get them a job. After all, you are not going to school for a holiday or a picnic. You are going to you are preparing yourself for the future. So it is a matter of concern, and I will not fight shy from that. But the important part is that where will you get the job from? So you are creating a cadre of really unemployable people. This takes me back to 2007 when I was keynoting a Human Resource Planning Society's global conference. And my theme arena was, how will India sustain? At that time, India was notching up 9% growth rates. And the question was, how will India sustain a growth rate of 9% if it doesn't have enough skilled, employable people? And I answered that question at that time. However, that's the same question that is threatening America today. Where are the employable people? This is where the people are not available. Why would I, if I'm running a technology company, whether if I'm running a data analytic company, I need somebody equipped to handle with technology, to do the programming, to do varieties of work related to that. So if I can't hire a liberal arts college guy and train him to do this only to waste my time. I would rather look for people who are trained in STEM and technology to take over a job and run with it. That's what is important about the whole thing. So, this particular thing is dangerous. I totally agree. And I have a feeling that the necessity of the job will force people and children and parents that study something which is relevant to your life and future rather than studying something esoteric which gets you nothing.
I'm sure that this Google and Amazon 6-month courses are going to be far more popular because they're going to cost about $500 to $1,000. And nobody is going to go for those fancy
Exactly.
$65,000 courses, which are only going to brainwash you and not even going to land you a job, except for that, okay, the $15 an hour thing.
You are right. Like, for example, Microsoft engineering, Microsoft certification, that if you want to work in, you get certified by Microsoft, you get eligible to you get a job. This has a different dimension to that as well, though, because the technical education is very expensive again. So you are finding in America right now that a lot of people who could have become a doctor, because the cost of education being so high, they end up being technicians. As a male nurse or a female nurse or something to operate a cardiology center or a cancer center, their career growths are not going to be fulfilled. So you are looking at a possibility in America where a person like me, say, for example, I don't have the money to become an MBBS doctor or do my MD and further a specialization. I do a technician's course for physiotherapy or, working in a doctor's office. I remain that for the rest of my life. It does affect me, though, because I know that I was good enough to be a doctor, but I can't be a doctor because I don't have that money. So what people are doing now is that they're doing those immediately gainful employment jobs and take a break and go back and learn something more. And that's how they enhance their earning capacity and their skill sets. And that's what is transforming the private sector of mass education. So, for example, I'll tell you, we have a group here which invests in pre-IPO scenarios. In that pre-IPO scenario, there is a company, I won't name it right now, which is going to go public, and it's all about education, all about providing certificate courses and education which you do not have to go to high-paying colleges and places. So, for example, EDX, a name I can quote because I have done several courses on EDX, including programs on blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and all that, only to understand the language that is used in modern technology. I didn't have to do that, but I did the course to learn it. So, Anant Agarwal, I think his name is, who runs EDX, is an IIT engineer from Kharagpur or Delhi or wherever. And he paid $36,000 for his engineering program, electrical engineering program, and MIT. He is making the same program available for free through EDX in batches and in components to the world around us. EDX is a platform where I learned, I did a course on terrorism and counterterrorism, where my teacher was Christine Fair, whose line you quote in the book, when she says that even if you give Pakistan Kashmir in a silver plate, they will not take it. Actually, that is my quote to her. Actually, I told her this in my conversation in the exchange of, that my Pakistani friend told me, Jha sahab, aap to Sharif Hindu hain. अरे आपने हमें कश्मीर सोने की थाली में भी दे दी तो हम लेंगे नहीं, क्योंकि हमसे अपना खुद देश नहीं चलता है, तो हम कश्मीर लेके करेंगे क्या, सिर्फ एप्पल खाएंगे वहां का. And then he also said, the two important things that he said was that the reason why we will not settle for Kashmir is that we will become a marginalized country in that region. Who will care for us? We'll end up being Kazakhstan or something like that, because currently my importance in the world geopolitics is all because I am the de facto protector of Muslim interests in India, and I am the protector of interests of Muslims in Kashmir. That gives me an international stature, and I'm equated with India. And हमारे जो लोग हैं, हम नासूर बन के आपको चुभेंगे जिंदगी भर के लिए. That's what I told Kristen Fair, and I'm glad she shared that with you. And
she wrote it in her book.
Yes,
I'm not too fond of her. Okay. Let me confess that. I think I mentioned that in the book as well. But this is something that was a good takeaway. So you can always appreciate my being very objective.
Oh, of course.
I can take it even from the people I don't like.
Of course. As a matter of fact, I always say, as a sportsman, I have learned a lot of lessons from my opponents who beat the hell out of me. And as a sportsman, I've also learned from my biggest defeats, most unexpected defeats. So it is perfectly fine. I totally endorse that. Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. So this entire job changing scenario, I think this is going to have a deep impact, and I earnestly wish, a lot of people sitting here may not like what I'm going to say, but I earnestly wish that this entire American campus system comes unstuck, because it may be teaching some skills, but it is taking the values out of the people, the students, completely out.
You will be, I totally agree with you, because this is not the feeling of myself alone, but I know that many people are concerned. Many wealthy Indians are concerned because they fund their entire, it's a prestigious thing to go to an Ivy League. So people aspire to, and Indians make it to them. They are saying that this is all, to use the American slang, bullshit going on, because they are not happy about it. They come back, they are totally in a shock when their children talk about things. They totally said, we didn't send you to Harvard to say that, or is that what they teach you there? So that, yes, you are talking about the liberal part of it, and I think it will come under clash with the job requirement in the marketplace, because every job requirement has technology as an essential component to that. And for that, you can't study philosophy and computer science to join Google. So you have to have certain skill sets to be there. However, the important part here also is the rise of, like every challenge throws up a different opportunity, right? So the cost of education has resulted in many educational platforms in the US. When I was doing these EDX courses, whether it was on Microsoft cryptocurrency or blockchain and financial fintech courses, I've done all three of them only because I wanted to learn the language, the modern language. And I found participants were from all over the world, as a result of which, and they give you certificate courses. So you pay $5 or $50, you get the certificate for that. That rise of that kind of education is happening because people are now knowing that, hey, MBA has fallen off the cliff. The traditional MBA, it has fallen off the cliff because the companies do not have the patience to hire an MBA and then train them to do the job of XYZ entity that hires them. They would rather have somebody who has a specialized skill. So in the US right now, you are also looking at Columbia, Harvard, offering highly specialized courses, 2 years master's program, and they are gaining far more momentum than a traditional MBA. So there is a change happening. As I say, you have to milk the cow as long as she gives you milk. So MBA is being milked. So I would urge every Indian who is coming to do MBA, don't. You will get better job if you do a specialized course more relevant to your talent and your skills. That's important.
That's a very good advice.
Thank you.
That's an excellent advice. And we can see that happening even in India. So look at these schools. Now, all the people, all the students, they are aspiring to get admitted to a coaching institute, which also runs a school on the side, just to fulfill their academic requirements. Okay, so that they will clear their 12th even while they're studying in the coaching institute. In those coaching institutes, there is no room for any woke activity there. It's all studies, studies, and studies. In fact, it's a very unhealthy atmosphere as well. So the traditional schooling in India has taken a beating. And if you come to the universities now, and in India, I'm talking about in India, I think it's the same wastage at doing liberal cause. Of course, let me qualify what I call as liberal. Liberals are those fools who do not have the courage to proclaim themselves as communists openly, and that do not have the brains to actually compete with the real brains. So that's what the liberal class is: complete idiots. Uh, Sorry for being very offensive to quite a few friends of mine, actually, especially those who are in journalism. So that's what basically liberal is. A liberal. I mean, what is the philosophy of the left? Basically, they value, after all, what does a common person, a common student, somebody aspiring to do something in life, what does he value?
Right.
He values success. He's looking for success in life. And these Johnnies, these liberals, instead give him that junjana of equality.
Right.
I know from my empirical experience that this damn thing called equality, it does not exist in nature.
Right.
And also, everybody says that they value diversity, and equality and diversity are opposite concepts. And the problem with the liberal class is that they can't make out the difference. That is the definition of the liberal.
Or they don't want to understand acknowledge the difference. There is a deliberate part of it as well. So that's very important. This is a very important thing, because this India-US thing is very dear to me, because I'm product of that system. I've prospered in this system. I was prosperous there too, and I'm more prosperous here. And I see the thing, like as we say in our business, is that when you are watching things from the sideline, you see more. I'm not talking about 30,000 feet high up the air view. I'm talking about when you're watching things from the sidelines, you see more, how the game is unfolding. And I see that India, I was very disappointed to hear that in your program that they're trying to open 4 more Aligarh Muslim universities in India. I mean, somewhere along the line, you must reach out to your colleagues in bureaucracy. Come on, man. This is a real come on, man scenario. How can you do that?
No, actually, that was the intention. It did not materialize. They opened one in Malappuram,
Okay.
but the other 2 are not going to materialize. That much I can assure.
Even one is a big evil, that because all these things have multiplier effect eventually. And that's what I learned from economics. That multiplier effect of everything is most important to analyze.
Oh yes, AMU is the original. What I should say, the original sin maker. They are the ones who did that. That whole idea of Pakistan was actually incubated in those campuses. And as I've always said, that Pakistan is an idea. That idea is still being incubated in that campus. And that campus, the best thing that you can do is to probably put a 10,000-pound bomb over it.
That would be okay. 10,000, it would be okay.
And that should take care of it. I'm not talking about a nuclear bomb yet.
No, what is important, what India must emulate, and the things that I have learned here and what I hope it happens, I have tried. Sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't, is to Indian government, Mr. Modi's government, like for example, halal decertification, jo hua, ye sab jo hua, there are steps taken in the right direction. Not all the steps will work. Steps will lead to conflict, dissatisfaction. So I'm looking at it this way, that I analyze this country, and what made this country great was the post-1929 Depression era government regulatory environment that came. You are not talking about a completely laissez-faire economy, but what United States did was to bring about a very modulated regulation which allowed entrepreneurship and innovation to continue, at the same time prevented monopolies from happening. Now, theoretically, we also had our MRTP Act, which essentially created the parallel economy of black money. So that's a different matter altogether. So I know the MRTP Act inside out to share with people that why Indian black money market is parallel. It's called parallel economy because that's what MRTP Act did. The end result of MRTP Act was that. So in the US, they did that. That met with resistance in the mortgage crisis. Eventually greed takes over. Politicians are not angels, and not all businessmen are angels. There are people who make mistakes, so they take advantage of that. My desire and my goal is that in India, we promote respect for occupations and the functions. Job is not important. And what I mean by saying that, when I came to this country in 91, we were all, affected by the Indian mindset. हम सोचते थे कि वो driver है, वो bus driver है, वो street साफ करता है. But what, really impressed me and I really loved it was the fact that I saw a sense of pride in a bus driver, in a street cleaner, that the job that they were doing with pride. Nobody was looking down upon them because they were doing XYZ. Let me give you an example. Just yesterday, a young man came to do paint of something in my house. Very polite, very savvy. And then he told me, sir, can I say something to you? I belong to the private equity industry. My mother hates me that I'm doing this work of paint job right now. But I got laid off due to COVID. And I'm doing this paint job. I'm setting up my own private equity fund. Would you introduce me to some people to do that? And he had a long chat with me about whether he should go back to a job. He's facing an interview today, or I should go independent. Now, that's what I call a sense of enterprise. An Indian guy, okay? Very, very well behaved. But he had a sense of pride that he was doing a paint job because he can do it. He can earn money and he's self-sufficient. That's the sense of pride that I want the Indian youth gathers. And, the government can't do everything for you. You have to remember that part. And that's where I believe Prime Minister Modi will do a yeoman's service to the country. His biggest contribution to the country going forward is to transform the concept of demographic dividend into real dividend. Let it become a fruitful venture rather than becoming a demographic burden. And that's the point which I am trying to say. Let India have entrepreneurial zeal to make some things happen. That's where it is. My definition of entrepreneurship and innovation is very simple. It's my definition, Sanjay ji. Innovation is about noticing the obvious and doing something about it. It's all in nature. As a famous scientist and architectural wonder Gaudi said, you don't have to do anything, just observe nature. It's right out there. Entrepreneurship is about taking that innovation to marketplace and make it an opportunity for everybody else. That's the issue which I want India to do, because we want to get rid of. We don't want to rely upon what you call. We don't want to rely upon. What did I do? Sorry, there was a computer snuffle. We don't want to rely upon a Facebook and Twitter that in 2024 they begin to censor what Modi says and what he can't say. Think about it. India needs to, on a war footing, develop and design its own, not Chinese, not European, not American, but its own social media content and social media tools so that we are not dependent on anybody. And this election in America, among many other things, I would say, it has a warning to India in 2024. This is what is coming our way. And, the lessons learned on that.
Okay. Yeah, so I think all points well taken. The only thing that I hope, of course, after this we go into the question answer round. The only jarring note that I found is that the new education policy wants to get all these out-of-job universities to come to India and teach liberal arts.
Yes. Yes, I instead of that, I will tell you this. Somebody should send a note to Prime Minister Modi about it. is that don't bring these liberal arts schools to teach liberal arts. We have been studying liberal arts forever. So we don't need the American liberal arts. I'm a total vehement opponent of that. Instead, pick up the greatest of skill development institutes from America. Tell them to come and offer the certificate courses and all that, which will make them, which will make the Indian youth employable anywhere in the world. That's the point which I would have urged, because we did bring about some skill institutes to India. It didn't work out for different reasons altogether, because they had their own problems. They had their own requirements of domestic laws, because they are funded by the state. And there are so many things, when they're funded by state, they don't have the ability to do overseas. So they are all local area things, community colleges, which are very wonderfully put together. And I have attended some of these colleges to know how they operate. And they teach you how to be a good waiter, to earn a $30 tip or a $40 tip to deserve that tip, So there are many skills that are required to be done. India needs a skill development. India doesn't need Ivy Leagues from here. And I hope, it is made attractive and nobody joins those colleges.
And unfortunately,
supply and demand, I'll put it that way.
Unfortunately, that may not happen, because I think there'll be a lot of what is called, I should say, the pseudo pressure, the pressure to look pseudo intellectual.
Well, I would say, Sanjayji, very simple. Wise men learn from other people's mistakes, fools by their own. So if we want to learn from the mistakes of our own,
shortage of fools. On that note, we move to the question answer session. Request everybody to please like, share, subscribe, and press the bell icon. And of course, you've been wonderful all the way through. So please do keep contributing. Your contributions mean a lot to us.
Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.